What is up, guys? So the latest Arrowverse crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, ended with the official formation of the Justice League in the Arrowverse. Superman, the Flash, Martian Manhunter, Supergirl, Black Lightning, Batwoman, and White Canary came together to form this team in the Hall of Justice, although they never really called themselves the Justice League. White Canary and Batwoman are not exactly members in the comics. Supergirl and Black Lightning are pretty prominent members, while Superman, the Flash, and Martian Manhunter are founding members in the comics, so it definitely is a version of the Justice League. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's a pretty huge, it is the biggest superhero team in the comics, forming in the Arrowverse for the first time. However, just a couple weeks later, just a couple episodes later in one of the TV shows, it seems like they're forming yet another pretty big superhero team from DC Comics. That team is the Outsiders. So in the comics, the Outsiders are supposed to be a group of heroes who aren't concerned with public appearance and are able to go where the Justice League are not. There's been a whole lot of members on the team, but the main ones really are Batman, Katana, Geoforce, Metamorpho, and Black Lightning. This is a team that's never really had any live action or even cartoon interpretations. The only ones that we've gotten is the new Team Arrow in Arrow Season 6 calling themselves the Outsiders, although Wild Dog, Mr. Terrific, and Black Canary are not members of the Outsiders in the comics, or at least not prominent members. And the other one is in Young Justice Outsiders with characters like Beast Boy, Impulse or Kid Flash, Blue Beetle, and others, but this is clearly not really the Outsiders. It's more of a version of the Teen Titans calling themselves the Outsiders, so we've never really gotten a version of the Outsiders in any form of television or movie, but it seems like we might be getting one for the first time really on Black Lightning. So like I said, Black Lightning is one of the core members of the team. You have Batman as the leader, but I feel like since Batman has his own team and that's the Justice League, Black Lightning, in most interpretations, if the Outsiders ever become more popular and they use them more, I feel like Black Lightning will typically be used as the leader, as Batman. He already has his team, and that's the Justice League. Now because of this, because Black Lightning is such a prominent member of this team, it seems like they're using this team in Black Lightning, the TV show, and that's pretty clear with the latest episode, as several heroes are coming together. The main thing that's going on here is all these characters coming together to go to Markovia to save Lynn Stewart, the ex-wife and now kind of love interest of Black Lightning, but a lot of heroes are coming together, and every single one of them, or at least most of them, are prominent members, or at least members of the Outsiders in the comics, and there's even a reference to the Outsiders in this episode. In this episode, there were a couple characters who came to Black Lightning's base of operation who had never been there before, and typically this is a base of operation that only the members of the team, which is Black Lightning, Thunder Lightning, Peter Gamby, and Lynn Stewart, have been to. However, there's a couple other characters here, and Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, refers to them as quote-unquote outsiders, since obviously they're outsiders to this team, and that's a clear, obvious reference to the Outsiders team. And while maybe they're not allowed to use the name, I don't know yet, I feel like they probably should be able to. I don't think they're going to use the name in any movies or whatever. They are at least referencing that they are bringing together the Outsiders in this episode for this mission to go to Markovia and save Lynn Stewart. But who are the members of the Outsiders, and are they members in the comics? So first of all, there's Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, and Anissa Pierce, aka Thunder, and Jennifer Pierce, aka Lightning, the Pierce family, and the main heroes of this show. Now, obviously, I said earlier, Black Lightning is one of the core members of the Outsiders of the comics, so it makes a lot of sense he would be a member of this team. But also, they wouldn't do the Outsiders if it wasn't for Black Lightning. If this wasn't a Black Lightning TV show, or Black Lightning wasn't a member of the Outsiders in the comics, they wouldn't make this the Outsiders, since they don't have Metamorpho, Katana, and Batman, although Batman and Katana at least do exist in the Arrowverse, so maybe they could bring them in going forward, although I do doubt it. Anyway, it makes a lot of sense Black Lightning would be on this team. There's also Anissa Pierce, aka Thunder, who is in fact a member of the team in the comics. Because of her close association to Black Lightning, it all does make a lot of sense. She would be on this version of the team. And finally, Jennifer Pierce, aka Lightning. I thought she would be a member of the team because the other two are, but she's actually never been a member of the Outsiders in the comics, which is weird. She's actually been a member of the JSA for some reason. I don't really know any of that background, but I do think that even though she's never been a member of the Outsiders in the comics, it still does make a whole lot of sense that she's going to be a member of this one because of her close association to Anissa Pierce. And Jefferson Pierce, she's literally a part of their family, so I don't really know why she's never joined the Outsiders in the comics while Thunder and Black Lightning have, but I do think it does make a lot of sense that she is here. So next up is a character named Brandon who was introduced in this season of Black Lightning, and I think it's pretty clear what they're doing here. They're race bending and also Americanizing Geoforce. Now I don't really know why they're doing this. They have the whole Markovia storyline, and I feel like DC and Warner Brothers probably already gave them the go-ahead to use Geoforce since they kind of already are, so I don't really know why they're Americanizing and race bending him, but it does seem like they are doing that. And Brandon, who would be an original character since there's no Brandon in the comics, especially not one with geokinetic abilities, this does seem like an Americanized and race-bended version of Geoforce. Now, I would have a problem with this, however, I was never really a fan of the Geoforce character, even on Young Justice. I never really liked him that much, and watching this show, I have liked Brandon. I think he's a very interesting and very likable character, so honestly, I don't really have a problem with this change of character because I like this version of the character more so than I've ever liked any version of Geoforce. Now, this is clearly what they're doing here. However, there's actually evidence that this is Geoforce and he's going to become Geoforce in this season. First of all, Brandon and Brion are pretty similar names. I feel like Brandon is the closest to an Americanized version of Brion you could get, other than obviously Brian, but I think Brian would be a little bit too on the nose, so maybe they're going with Brandon for that. Also, his last name has yet to be revealed. It's possible that his last name will be revealed to be Markov, like Brion Markov in the comics, but the real piece of evidence for this character, that he's going to become Geoforce, comes from episode 11, where he came to Black Lightning's lair for the first time. He saw all of the costumes. He said that he wanted one, but then Jennifer said that he doesn't even have a name yet, and the names he came up with were Quake Boy, Earth Force, and then Geo before being cut off by Jennifer. It was pretty clear by association that after Earth Force he's going to say Geo Force, and he was cut off, so we don't get that fully, but it is clear that that's where they're going. This Americanized and race-bent version of Brion Markov, who maybe could be Brandon Markov, is going to become Geoforce. He's going to get a costume maybe, and it's clear since he has geokinetic abilities, and he's a member of this version of the Outsiders. So then there's Grace Troy, who is a fairly prominent member of the Outsiders in the comics, although this version of the character has the very different abilities. She could shapeshift, and also she has these other personalities, which the comic book character doesn't have. Finally, there's Erica Moran, aka Fright Train. Actually, she hasn't been called Fright Train yet, but I'm guessing that's where they're going, since in the comics there is a member of the Outsiders named Eric Moran. However, there are clear changes that I don't really understand why they did that. First of all, they gender bent the character in the comics. He's a guy, here it's a woman, and also they race bend the character, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, that they changed a black character on a Black Lightning TV show, but they had this black character and they made they made him into a her, but also they made him into a Hispanic character, Erica Moran. I don't know why they did that, but it does seem pretty clear to me that this is a version of Fright Train, and yes, he was a member of the Outsiders in the comics. So those are the main characters, but like I said, there are other categories. There's tech. First of all, there's a character named Jeffrey Baran, aka Technocrat, who is not tech, but he is a superhero in the comics and member of the Outsiders, and it does seem like maybe they're going that way here. And finally, another tech character is Peter Gamby, who, while never being a member of the Outsiders in the comics, is always very closely associated to Black Lightning, so it does make sense that he's now closely associated to the Outsiders as well. So then there's background characters. Because they're working with the ASA, there are a couple characters that they're working with. First of all, a character named Sarah Gray, who is like one of the only characters in the entire team who is an original character. In fact, she is the only one. She's not a DC character, and thus, she's obviously not a member of the Outsiders. Finally, there's another ASA agent, Gardner Gale, who in the comics is actually a member of the Outsiders, despite the fact that here it doesn't seem like he's becoming a hero or anything, but in the comics, he's a character named Atomic Knight and a member of the Outsiders. That's actually pretty cool. I have also liked this character. I found him likable, so I would like for him to become Atomic Knight like in the comics. So that's basically it for all the members of the Outsiders on this group, but there are a couple members or a couple characters in Black Lightning that are actually either associated with the Outsiders in the comics or just straight up members. Like, the members include Helga Jace, who is the supporting character turned villain. Here she is a villain, but she does have a prominent role in this storyline. Wendy Hernandez, aka Windfall, who is a prominent member of the Outsiders in the comics and is a hero, or at least not a villain, on this show, so maybe she can join in the future. I should say that in the comics she's Wendy Jones, while here she's Wendy Hernandez, and I'm guessing she's race bent. Looker, who's a member of the Outsiders in the comics, however, here she's a villain, so I'm guessing they're going to stray away from that. And Lynn Stewart. Lynn Stewart is associated with the Outsiders since she is Black Lightning's wife, and the same is here, not wife, but love interest and ex-wife, but she has a big role in this whole storyline. So that is basically it. The Arrowverse has its version of the Outsiders. Yes, it doesn't have Batman, Katana, Metamorpho, or a lot of other members of the Outsiders, but it does have Black Lightning, Thunder, Lightning, Grace Troy, maybe a version of Geoforce, a version of Fright Train, Technocrat, and even Atomic Knight, who are all characters in the comics who are members of the Outsiders, except for Lightning. But again, I do think that association is there. But I do think this is very interesting. I mean, they literally just brought together the Justice League, and now they're also bringing back together the Outsiders. So maybe they're able to bring together all these other teams as well, like the Teen Titans. I mean, they already have the JSA and the Legion of Superheroes, so this is becoming more and more like a complete DC universe. I will say, though, that if they are actually officially bringing together the Outsiders, officially naming them the Outsiders, then I see no reason why they can't bring in Katana from Arrow, a character who is, like I said, one of the core members of the Outsiders in the comics, and isn't on a show anymore at this point. I think that obviously they would have to come up with a storyline that works, because right now they're very disconnected, but I think that it would be really cool if they did bring in Katana into this version of the Outsiders, and then they could just maybe introduce Metamorpho, maybe even bring in Batman, although that's a bit of a stretch, and then you have this pretty awesome interpretation of the Outsiders. So that's basically it for the Arrowverse version of the Outsiders, or at least the first version of the Arrowverse Outsiders. I will say that the reason I haven't made a lot of Black Lightning videos, or at all, I've barely talked about it at all, is because after Season 1 ended, I just stopped watching the show, and I just only recently got caught back up. And I gotta say, while Season 2 was kind of difficult to get through, Season 3 has been very interesting, and I really like what they're going with it, so I would recommend you, if you haven't seen it, or haven't seen it in a while, you get back into Black Lightning, at least with Season 3. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this whole thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.